And now to Cuba, and a rare opportunity to actually interview a Castro, Mariela, the daughter of the Cuban president, Raul Castro. Yesterday, I asked her about activism on behalf of gay rights, which brought her here to the United States, and also the possibility of political awakenings inside Cuba. Today, I ask whether she thinks the half-century-old embargo against her country will ever be lifted, and what she sees for the future of U.S.-Cuba relations. Mariela Castro, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Let me get to some of the reaction that your visit here has caused. Were you surprised that the U.S. government gave you a visa?
Even though I had obtained a visa under Bush in 2002, I was surprised this time. I didn't think that I would be granted a visa, but I'm grateful. I was able to have a very rich exchange with professionals and activists in San Francisco and in New York as well.
You don't need me to tell you what the Cuban-American community thinks. Florida Senator Marco Rubio accused you of bringing a campaign of anti-Americanism to the United States. Is that what you're doing here?
In the first place, that senator doesn't represent the Cuban-American people in the United States, just a very small interest group that has dedicated itself to manipulating policy of the United States towards Cuba, affecting the civil rights of the Cuban-American people to travel freely and as often as they want, to be able to go back and see their families in Cuba. So what our leaders have always asked is that we normalize relations based on respect towards our sovereignties and our social and economic projects. And I think that we can achieve this. I think it's easy. It's unfortunate that a small group of people are really limiting this process. I felt the friendship and the affection of the people of the United States. I felt very well here. I've met wonderful people. And I see that we share many points in common, Cuba and the United States. Right now in Cuba, there are many Americans because of the flexibility that Obama has. And it's wonderful, and they feel very well there. And we're ready. We're ready to meet in friendship with any type of conditioning or political manipulation.
Did you expect more from President Obama, or has he gone as far as you expected him to go on the Cuban issue?
I think that the whole world and the American people had placed great hopes on President Obama. And I personally understand that that is his position and that his public mandate limits him a great deal. But I believe that President Obama needs another opportunity, and he needs greater support to move forward with his projects and with his ideas, which I believe come from the bottom of his heart. He wants to do much more than what he's done. That's the way I interpret it personally. I don't know if I'm being subjective.
Do you think that he wants to lift the embargo and that there could be proper relations between Cuba and the United States under a second Obama term?
I believe that Obama is a fair man. And Obama needs greater support to be able to take this decision.
Do you want Obama to win the next election?
As a citizen of the world, I would like him to win. Seeing the candidates, I prefer Obama.
Now, as you know, there are many issues that cause problems between Cuba and the United States. One of the issues right now is Alan Gross. I want to play you something that he told CNN's Wolf Blitzer.
I have a 90-year-old mother who has inoperable lung cancer, and she's not getting any younger, and she's not getting any healthier. I would return to Cuba. You can quote me on that. I'm saying it live. I would return to Cuba if they let me visit my mother before she dies. And we've gotten no response.
So my question to you is, why should Alan Gross not be allowed to visit his sick mother?
The Cuban government has publicly requested that they want to negotiate based on human considerations, Alan Gross's situation, as well as the situation of the 5 Cubans who have been in prison for 15 years in the United States. And the Cuban people who are participating in this process is to seek a satisfactory solution for the 6 families, the 5 Cubans and for Alan Gross. I think that it's fair. I'm hurt by any family suffering. I'm dedicated to helping people and making them happy. And it seems to me that independently of the fact that he's committed a crime, and that he's only served a short period of his sentence, I think that it's fair that people can receive the benefit of flexibility in the world of law and justice. And if these negotiations go forward between the two governments, I think that as a people, we're going to be very happy that the situation has been solved. But we have the case of Gerardo Hernandez, who's in prison. His mother fell ill. He asked for permission to see his mother. His mother passed away, and Gerardo was not able to say goodbye to his mother. He also hasn't been able to see his wife this whole time. Alan Gross has been granted everything that he's asked for. He's been able to see his wife. He's been able to have matrimonial, conjugal visits. And he has been treated with respect and dignity the way we always treat prisoners in Cuba. We haven't received the same treatment, on the other hand, for our 5 prisoners who have very long sentences that are not right. So what we want is the well-being of all of these families. That's what we wish for the most. I think that the 6 must be released, both the 5 Cubans and Alan Gross.
You yourself have said in New York this week, our system is open and fair, as you've just told me. Many would disagree with you, but you've said that. But you've also said that it could be more democratic. What do you mean by that?
I meant to say that we need to establish permanent mechanisms for the people's participation when we make decisions, because this is the only way that all our people can participate.
We often wonder why it is that Cubans can't travel very easily. Cubans have to get permission from the government to travel and come back. They can't just leave, and it's quite difficult to get permission. I mean, people have told me that inside Cuba. Why? I mean, what's the point of that?
The subject of migration in Cuba was always managed politically from here, and you know that there are many difficulties. And immigration law, even though the law in the United States is maintained, should change in Cuba. So several years ago, there's been a great discussion regarding the subject about how to modify this law. And I understand that this year, a new immigration law will be approved in Cuba, which opens up to everything that the Cuban people have requested in our ongoing debate.
So you foresee change in the travel laws?
Yes, and I believe it's going to come about very soon. It's one of the things that we've asked for the most in all of these discussions.
I have to ask you about somebody who you're already having a bit of a verbal war with, and that is Joanny Sanchez, the dissident blogger inside Cuba. Why shouldn't she be allowed to blog? Why shouldn't she be allowed to say what she does?
The way I see it, Joanny Sanchez is allowed to express herself. She has a blog, she's on Twitter, she's on Facebook. She's not in prison, even though she's a mercenary. Through prizes, she's received over $500,000 in prizes. That's a form of payment. And that type of mercenary does exist in Cuba. Even though she's done that, she's not in prison. Even though she's breaking the law, she's allowed to express herself. And she's allowed to lie. She has time to lie and say everything that she wants. She's free. She even has the most sophisticated technology which exists in Cuba to connect to internet and to be able to publish her ideas.
In that regard, a couple of years ago, journalists came to Cuba and they met with your uncle, Fidel Castro. And he gave an interview and he basically said, the Cuban model doesn't even work for us anymore. What do you think he meant by that?
He meant to say that in this new era, in Cuba's new reality, with the development of the political culture and conscience in our country, it was time for a change. We had to change our strategy. And that's what we've been doing. He realized it. And as a leader, he was calling upon us to do that. But those changes do not happen overnight. I repeat, they have to be worked on. We have to generate a debate. And I think that that is what we've been doing. And I'm very satisfied to see that the maximum leader of our revolution has identified our difficulties. Because as a people, we were also defining them.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
And if you missed the first part of my interview with Mariela Castro, you can watch it on amanpour.com, where you can see our entire program every day. And when we